for uniforms for actual inspiration. Because again, like uniforms don't have to be boring. They can actually be really stylish. So there's also another piece of the puzzle that I really like to explore, which is the Gap. So the Gap has a lot of brand identity, obviously, but I think one of the things that the Gap is really missing that we could really build on is kind of how they present their product. So on the e-commerce site for Gap, it's very, very difficult to actually find uniforms. It's not a major part of their branding. They actually have just a long chunk list of different products. There's no styling, there's no different outfits that are put together, so that's a huge problem. The other thing that I think I noticed between the Gap and also Lands' End is that there's nothing that's true to size, and I think that's really important for True Spirit going forward, is for us to really identify ourselves as a uniform company that does really strong returns and exchanges and also really cares about true to size. So we thought about that as well in our design. So this is where I see the opportunity. I definitely think there are competitors out there in the uniform space, but as a uniform-only website, we can really guide the customer to help him or her actually choose a school-appropriate outfit that's also stylish. So now we're really getting into the design process. So as I had said earlier, I really want to include the company in the next iteration. So this is kind of a way for you guys to get your feet wet to see kind of how the design process goes. And I'm really excited to see how we can work together going forward. So our overall sort of research question when we looked at all of the research, it came down to this. How might we design an e-commerce site that is both efficient and exploratory? And so typically things that are exploratory, which is the definition, to traverse for the purpose of discovery, isn't very efficient, which is competency in performance. But I really believe, and I think through the design process, we can really find a way to actually balance those two things and create something that's both efficient and delightful by discovery. So this is kind of the beginnings of the design process. So we were thinking about the user, we were thinking about the brand and our interviews with you about what you wanted. We also were thinking about the technology side of it and what was really possible on an e-commerce site. And we came up with this kind of idea of these three circles blending together. And this is kind of we're still in sort of the early stages, but I think that this is something that we can come back to again and again. We also really thought a lot about the login and the sign-up page. So that first entryway, the first branding moment for True Spirit, what could that look like? Is an easy way to kind of get access to True Spirit. Are we logging in? What does that look like? And also, are we focusing more on visuals or are we focusing more on getting them into the system? Because for uniforms, we will need to know a lot about about the school, about the grade, and all those things to actually make it an efficient process. So we kind of sketched out a few different ideas here. The other thing we focused on in this kind of iteration was the customer shopping experience. So we're thinking about ways to make it enjoyable, but also make it efficient. So we thought through some ideas in terms of outfits, we thought through some ideas in terms of, this is what we were thinking maybe in terms of a